Making my name, living my purpose, showing my views. Giving this life all of me, how can I refuse? Using these years, breaking these fears, living our dreams. Traveling the states, raising my states while placing my stakes. Giving opportunity and point of view. Inspiration, motivation in my godly manner. Highest standard hit was canon for my mental nature. Vocalizing these vision, execute with precision. As an artist, CEO. My life is my business. My life is my business. My life is my business. As an artist, CEO. My life is my business. My life is my business. My life still in God's hands, came out alone.
What up, man? What up? This is Kevin's perspective mixed in with humble beginnings, the vocal visions we've here in effect. What is up, man?
What's going on, man? What's going on? It feels good, man. Hybrid, man. We hybrid the channels, man. It's beautiful.
We hybrid the channels. So today I'm letting the audience know we're talking about fatherhood today. So there's been discussions that we've had behind the cameras about just the importance of fatherhood, what it means to be a father, what it means to teach your sons and daughters and everything like that. So we're going to have a quick little discussion about it. Make sure y'all hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share it to whoever, let everybody know that we live right now. We're going to be talking some good conversation, you know what I'm saying? You see the stroll down on the screen, the book Finding the New You, in stores now. It's on Amazon. Kev, what you got, man? What you got?
Hey, man. I mean, I'm just ready to get started, man.
Yeah.
I'm always in it for the combos, man. I'm ready to get started, man.
Yeah. All right, cool. So first question. Let's get this first question up, man. Let's get this thing rolling. What is a father's purpose to you? What is a father's purpose?
You want me to go first or you gonna go first?
Yeah, you can go ahead and set it off. Go ahead and set it off.
All right, cool. So to me personally, as a father, I feel my whole entire purpose is provisions. And it's provision when it comes to leading and guiding my kids into like their health, when it comes to physical health, mental health, spiritual health, when it comes to like financial adversary, like it's there to guide them and help get them to their adulthood and help make them become better people, man. I think that's really a father's job, man, just to be able to provide the things that your child needs to be great.
Mm-hmm. So I agree. I feel as though a father's purpose is to give identity and purpose. Mm-hmm. A father's purpose is to give identity and purpose. So when getting a little spiritual, biblical real quick, when Adam was created, one of his first job was to give identity and purpose. So even as a man, that is your purpose, is to give that. So as a father, that is also the duty and the obligation as far as making sure that your child understands their identity and understands their purpose. Giving the guidance for them to know their purpose in life, why they are even living. It's up to the father to give that guidance in them figuring out what their purpose is and what their identity is in this world. That's what I think a father's purpose is.
I agree, most definitely.
Yeah.
Father's purpose is to give the child purpose.
Thing about it is you gotta know your purpose first. I'm a pivot for a quick second. And it's hard for you to teach somebody else their purpose when you don't even know how to find your own. You don't know how to have your own purpose or know where to get it. How can you teach anybody else answers when you don't know any answers? You have no knowledge. You have no sense of direction. You have none of that. So sometimes, and I know we talked about it, even if you are there, if you giving the wrong information and knowledge to your child is just as damaging as not even being there.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
So, you need to know your purpose. It's supposed to be in the alignment. You know yours, then you're able to help them know theirs. Because I look at it like, as a man, as a father, you are the source and the resource. Mm-hmm. So what you give is the seed. You give your seed. You are the source. You are the purpose. You give. You surround it. You cover the purpose. I'm gonna say this, and people might not agree with it, but I'm gonna say it. So even when you give your seed to the mother, to the woman, you are also giving a sense of purpose to her.
Oh.
That's why a lot of times you might hear a mom say, well, after I became a mother, I started to know what my purpose. I know. Because he gave you that. He might not even realize he did it. He probably don't know. But he helped in that. Everything that comes from him as it maneuvers gets a sense of purpose. So I kind of pivot a little bit, but it kind of came right back.
No, that needed to be said, man. That's powerful. And I don't think people may have sat and actually thought to listen and actually hear that. Like, and it proves that how symbiotic we are too, though. Like, we need each other because that woman needs to have her purpose, and then our future, our purpose, everything moves together as being in sync, and that's how we really, really be strong. You know what I'm saying? So, that's deep. That's definitely powerful.
Yeah, because it's funny because no matter how much she may hate him, there's one small piece that's like, he gave me something I never had.
Gave you a reason to live.
Or gave a reason, gave a sense of direction on how to live.
Yeah.
So, a father's purpose is to give purpose. But even with that being said, man, like, what's something that you learned? Now we kind of go into some of these questions. What's something that you learned from your father that sticks with you today? Like, even from growing up, that kind of sticks with you today?
Oh, man. One of the things that I learned from my father, man, is definitely the discipline. And the reason why the discipline sticks so hard, because my father was like a hard dude. He was a hard dude because my father was a drill sergeant in the Marine Corps for 22 years. Mm-hmm. So one thing about my father is he didn't accept excuses. He really couldn't fall back and sit there and be like, oh, like you really couldn't, like, there was just no room for excuses. You couldn't say, oh, I forgot this, dad, or this right here. You just couldn't throw anything up like that. And that's something that always stuck with me, because even today, like, I'm like that. When I talk to people, it's like, either you're gonna do it or you're not. Like, I don't really hear room to be talking around much. Like, yo, what you gonna do? You got to have this, you got to have discipline and that drive to be focused and get things done. So one of the things I learned, man, was how to just get it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the things I learned was to think for myself. I was kind of encouraged to do that. So, my father was in my life more so at a younger age. And then as I became an adult, it was kind of non-existent, to be honest. But even the principles I learned coming up certain situations and certain, small teachings here and there, to say you don't have to do what they do. You don't have to be what they be. Think for yourself. You're smart. Think for yourself. Keep going with what you're doing. So those little small things made me think, like, you know what? I'm going to learn how to appreciate my own thought. I think a lot of times there's so many people who are just followers of everybody, right? And it's like, it was more so like appreciating the rebellious mindset that I might have had, even though you shouldn't be destructive with it, but embrace that mentality of thinking, you know what? Think against the grain, have your own thoughts. And then, from that thought, from your ideas, from what I learned, is to work on it from there at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I guess you asked the opposite earlier. You asked the opposite. What was? How did you say it? Like, what was the question?
So I asked the question of how. What are some of the things that you learn with, like, that you might have had your father that you actually had to learn outside of your father? Because I move around, and I always say this too, that there are times in your life where we learn that influence overrides your teachings. Not overall, but then those certain moments in your life, especially people who got teenage kids, they understand this fully. If you got a teenage child, you understand exactly what I'm saying. So there are things that you learn that you just didn't get from your father. And I know, like, sometimes we like to give a lot of credit, but since there's a lot of things that we didn't learn from. Like, for instance, so if I use me as an example, even though, like, I got the opposite of you. My father was more absent in my younger years, and he became more prevalent as I got older, because it was around the time, the military with all the traveling. And then as soon as he got out of the military, he started driving truck. And of course, anybody who know this lifestyle, they stay gone, they stay on the road. So one of the things that I've been out and I've been learning, like, I learned that idea of, like, a sense of, kind of like our homeboy Deuce always says about the yeses mean yeses and the no mean no's. Like, I learned how to be more strict with my own placement on things. That I didn't really get that sense too much from my father. Like, he gave me that, he taught me how to get it done, but then, like, the honorableness to it really didn't come from my father. It really came more of me attacking like a prideness in myself, and then seeing it amongst other people and being like, yo, I want that honor that they carry. And most people who know me, they know I'm a martial artist. So a lot of my teachings and my base comes from that too. And that's where I really pick up on a lot of that honorable, samurai type way of lifestyle, that we got to keep a code here.
Yeah, I guess for me, like, even growing up, like, especially more so in my teenage years, like, my parents had separated. So, there was different gaps here and there. But I learned a lot from what I didn't learn from him. I learned a lot from a lot of my friends' fathers, to a certain degree. Because I had a lot of the friends I had, all of them had fathers, right? And not only that, I had my uncle. I had people in the church. I had, like, it was fathers all around, which is kind of ironic because a lot of the women I knew didn't know or have relationships with their fathers. So, but the boys that I was with, and were friends with, had fathers. So it was crazy dynamics all around. But it's like the stuff I learned was like little small stuff here and there, as far as like how to build relationships with people. And that's one thing I never learned from my father, is how to even build relationships in general. And with people, and how to not be selfish, how to, be considerate of what everyone else is doing and stuff like that, how to be a friend, and it's like I learned a lot of that from, I guess, community around me at that point. So there's a lot of other intricate things, but for the most part, from what I can think of, to answer that question would probably be that I learned a lot from the community around me, the people associated with me, what I didn't learn from my father.
Man, that's pretty deep, man, because that's one of the things that I wish I was able to pick up from my father, that whole learning how to build relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's something I really wish I had learned, like a lot younger versus having to young it so much later. I really wish that I had to learn that younger too.
Yeah. Now, I didn't say I knew how to build relationships with women. That's a different topic.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was talking overall too. I wasn't homing in on those. That's totally different. Yeah, that requires another skill set.
Yeah, that required a lot of different experiences. But yeah, that's pretty much what I learned. What I learned that I didn't learn from him. But you also asked another question about teaching, right? So now we're kind of going from what we learned to how we teach, because we got sons. Yeah. So as a father, like, what do you teach your sons that you want them to hold on to, pretty much?
So I got 3 key things that hold heavily to my heart. The first one is humility. I think it's very important that my son learns humility. Like, I know a lot of people like to push a sense of pride, but I like to learn it from the other end, because it's the opposite. Like, I want them to understand that you're not beyond anybody else, that we all start at the bottom and it's our job to try to find our way. So I really, really need my sons to understand humility, and that's one of the things that I push heavily in them. Another thing that holds very, very deep in me is patience. Especially when we start getting into our adult age. Like, we know, like, when life starts going, you're talking about jobs and women and even children, you're going to need patience, man. Patience will keep you with a clear head, and to keep you focused, and to keep you from making a lot of bad decisions. And that's just, we need that patience. And then lastly, perseverance, man. Gotta have this perseverance, man. You gotta be able to push through, man. Have that drive, man, to see a lot of things through and not let anything stop you, man. Just having that strength to be like, yo, I'm going to beat this thing. And definitely for your inner parts, because most of the time, it's not even outside forces that stop us, it's ourselves. So as a father, man, it's my job to teach my sons, like, yo, whatever it is that you battling with yourself, you can overcome it, man. You got to be able to push through. So those are the 3 things, man, that I heavily believe and teach, man, my sons, man.
Yeah. I mean, for my son, I kind of teach, not quitting and not cheating. Because sometimes it'd be small things. Because as a father, you teach I think fathers teach more life lessons, like in those small ways, because you kind of teach more thought-provoking lessons as opposed to kind of just telling them what to do. You kind of fathers have a way of making their kids think about what they're doing. Because it's like mothers kind of take away decisions sometimes, because, you kind of take decisions off the plate to where they don't have to think about it. What to eat, how the clothes ready, everything. Like, certain decisions is like, I'm taking it off your plate so you don't have to worry about that and think about that. And I don't have to be, impatient to sit here and wait for you to decide what you're going to do. So I'm taking those decisions away from you, taking that burden away from you. I think mothers do that a lot. And I think that fathers kind of force decisions on their kids. It's kind of like, if the kids do something And then you ask, so what are you gonna do? Like, that's a father's question. That's what, and they think about, like, I ain't never thought about. I didn't think I had to think about what to do. So it's like, okay, so what you gonna do? So from my standpoint, as far as what I teach my son is not to quit, and not to cheat, even if he wants to. Like from a small situation, like a video game, right? If we're sitting there playing, dads we don't really show compassion on video games too much. You're gonna lose. You're gonna learn how to lose. So sometimes the sons get frustrated. They want to, like, I don't want to play it. No, you're gonna keep playing until you win. It's gonna teach you how to not give up. Just when you feel like you're about to give up, that's when that win happens, and that becomes that life lesson at that point. And going from there, and even teaching my son the value of surrounding himself with the right people, even though he might not completely understand that right now. I think, like, subconsciously it seeps in, because he has such a great support system. It's like he's surrounded by so much support and so much positivity that I can see it sometimes when he's around another kid that be whining and all this other stuff. He get away from that. So it's like he starts to grow in saying, you know what, I can see the difference between positive and negative. And I want to be around these people because they cheering me on and they telling me I'm doing good. They building me up. And if I'm around these people and they complaining and they whining and they doing this, I'm staying away from that. Right? So now I think I'm starting to build this mentality of surrounding yourself with the right people, and how that helps with getting, his way through life, So
I got a quick question, because since we're talking about like teaching, it's almost like, to go off of the statement, like piggybacking off what you had said, it's almost like the trials that you set up for your sons is like really to test them and help build and improve their character. But then it's like a lot of mothers, because they're so nurturing, it's almost like they handicap. They really do handicap like the children. Because I would always have a question, like, for women, like, that I would pose, like, why don't you, like, as women, like, even if you're not with the father of your child, why don't you feel like it's a responsibility / obligation to at least find a male mentor for your child? Well, especially if you got a son. I think it really goes both for whether you got sons or daughters, but since we're speaking specifically to sons, that would be a question I would pose to women. Like, okay, you and your baby father didn't make it, or you and your husband fell out super early. Why don't you try to find a male mentor? And it don't have to be somebody you have to lay up with, ladies. It could just be a friend or somebody you might hold dear, maybe in the church or something like that. But still, some level of a male mentorship. I think that is very, very important. And I always wonder why women don't do that. Because to me, that's where failure looks like to me. Like, when I see women do that, and women like take this whole idea and mindset of I'm the mother and the father, all I'm hearing is, yo, shut up and let me fail my child the best way I know how to. That's what I hear.
I think with that mentality, though, I think part of the reason why that doesn't happen is because that male mentor don't just hold the child accountable, but it holds her accountable too. So he's not just mentoring the child. He's also mentoring her. And she might not be receptive to that criticism. She might not be receptive to that accountability. You're not going to tell me what to do with my child. You're not going to tell me what to do in my household, this, that, and the third. So now that takes away from, I ain't gonna really find no male mentor. And if she's that type of woman. Now, some women, they have male mentors where it's like, grandfather, dad, uncle, whatever the case is. And it's really just about finding the time for them to, setting time aside for that mentorship to happen. But I think the women you talking about, because I see it too, be the type of women who don't want nobody to tell them how or be an influence for their sons that may take away from her influence on him to a certain degree. It's kind of like it clashes a little bit, and it becomes like a thing of I don't know, not a contradiction. That's not the word I'm looking for, but there's something that's there that's like it's an interference that's in there somewhere, and I think some might avoid it.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that order, right? Like say it's a single mother, right? And she got a teenage son, right? And she, trying to instruct him and going through, and then of course, he has to grow to be a man. I would hope. I know it's a little different nowadays, but we would have to hope to grow to be a man, that he would be like, he might have a little bass in his voice and be like, look, yo, mom, I'm going to do it this way. And she might be like, no, son, you need to do it this way. Like, mom, let me figure it out. Like, do you ever, like, if you ever, like, you were to see that, do you imagine, like, what's the thoughts in her mind? Like, he's literally telling you, mom, let me figure it out. Because, women they don't like for, you to, they want to still be able to be like, no, I want to help. I want to move this. I want to be a part of this. He's like, no, mom, let me do it.
Yeah. But that's where the fatherhood come in, because he's going to get to that point. And then that's when the father comes in to guide them. That's why I was talking about making them think, that thought-provoking, like, so making them think about those decisions. Like, you're trying to figure it out, but here's something to make you think about something or this situation differently. I'm not going to figure it out for you, because the father's going to make you do it yourself and make you figure it out, but guide you into how you're going to do it. Hopefully guide you into how you're going to do it. Because some fathers, they tell their kids they just tell their kids the wrong stuff. And it's like, you might as well not even have said nothing, bro.
You might as
well not say nothing. Yeah.
But you had asked a question earlier. You know what? You gave a scenario. Let me see. I'm gonna try to jog your memory and let you answer. But it was something about I guess if the mother about a mother not being stable, how do you approach a situation of like the best way to go? I'm trying to think of how you worded it. It was something about
hey, we get to that in a minute. We get to that a little. Okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
We get to that a little bit later. Because the question was, what do you do as a father if you recognize that the mother is not in the best situation, or is in a dark space in her life? How do you approach that as a father? Because the kids might not need to be around her, but she might not recognize it. So, but you recognize it. So how do you approach that? That was the question. But we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, it's like you asked something else though, as far as the sons. I guess it kind of goes into what you was asking as far as what you teach them. But you was talking more so from what they should have as a man. So expound more on what you meant when you asked that question.
So I was asking the question about, like, as men, we carry a level of foresight and we have expectations, and our expectations are our standards and the things that we want to see come forward. So my question was around, like, what are some of the things, like, after we already, we're doing the teaching and we're building, like, what is your vision for your sons once they become these stable men? And what are some of the things that you hope to see out of them that will make you step back and be like, yo, man, my son's amazing, man. He's awesome. Like, he got it together. He really found his way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the question was around.
I think that kind of goes back to the purpose part. Like, if you you know what I'm saying, you as a father is teaching or guiding him how to achieve his purpose, then you would hope that he's walking in it at that point. You know what I'm saying? I think sometimes fathers make the mistake of trying to make their sons follow their purpose, but it's like,
definitely, you
know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's like, they are their own individual, right? It's like, they can work for your company, but how does their purpose in life, or what they were born for apply to that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how do you balance their purpose with legacy at that point?
Me and my oldest son, man, we joke about that in the fashion of like our hobbies. You know what I'm saying? Like I do martial arts. Like I always loved martial arts as a kid. I do martial arts, but my oldest son, he ain't doing that. Now he's to the point where he loves football. So it'd be funny because we'll be having conversations and we talking about these games, and I'm like, hey, everybody know me, I'm not a sports guy. So I'd be like, listen, the most I can do, I can throw the ball to you every now and then, but I don't really know nothing about this. I don't get into this. That ain't my area. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, that's something you gotta kick with the coach a little bit. But I mean, I'm like, I understand the fundamentals, but it's like, your hobby is good. Like I would never push none of my sons to do what I do because you probably don't have the love. Like I had that love like at 8. So I was like, I want to do it. And both of my sons are older than 8. So it's like, what they purpose or what they hobbies is and what makes them happy is definitely totally different. And I have seen, yes, like what you said, there are a lot of fathers that try to make their children's purpose their purpose. Not understanding or having the respect for their children.
Yeah, or even knowing that, what their purpose really should be. Like you can kind of see in your sons what they will be good at, right? And it's like, how do you bring that out in a larger way? Like how do you make them recognize it? Like they know they're good. They know they're good at playing basketball, whatever the case is. How do you make them recognize that as a purpose in life as opposed to just a skill that they have? Because
basically tapping into them to help them reach their full potential.
Yeah,
pretty much what you asked. Like how do we make bring the best, most potential out of your child?
Yeah, and that's just understanding. That's understanding not even just purpose, but do you even know how to bring out potential at that point?
And then that would be a thing based upon the father. Because one thing I always say too, man, there is no handbook for raising children. Raising children is a learning experience for the children, and it's that for the parents. I know a lot of people like to get out there and be like, no, I know what to do. This. You got to do it this way. And it's like that. But if you really is honest and you want to be being respectful to like this thing, a lot of it is trial and error. That's why you always hear like the people in the generation before us always say, hey, I did the best that I could and I was trying my best. Because that's really all we can do. And I think that's what gives into like that, the humility side that I spoke to before. Like you might have this thing or this drive, you pushing towards certain things, but guess what, man? It's okay to fail. Like I promise you will learn more from that failure than anything else. So
the failure of the child is always a reflection of the failure of the parenting. Both parents. It don't matter who was there or not. She can say, well, he wasn't there, but you were. He can say, she didn't do this. You didn't either. It's always both.
And every now and then you might have like a situation where, because there is an independence there, like there is an identity there. So, and it doesn't happen often. Most of the time, statistically, it will reflect exactly that, the failure of them. But you do have like some people who they come up under your teacher, they understand it, but they still choose to go a whole nother direction. And that does happen too. I got a cousin like that. And it's like, like you look at them and like, how you get mixed up and run and do the things that you do with the parents you come from. It's like, so every now and then you get a couple of them apples that slip by, but to the point, no. Most of the time, it's usually some failure in your parenting.
It's somewhere.
It's somewhere. It's close.
But even I still look at it like, even if you do have the apples that slip through, they still represent you.
Oh yeah, they're definitely a representation of you.
They still represent you. You can do, regardless, they still represent you. So it's like, But what do you say to guys who might slip through? Well, the apples who are in the street, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, I don't have a father. Now I'm not talking about kids. I'm talking more as adults who are making decisions, and they saying, I didn't have a father growing up. What do you say to them?
Well, first, I mean, that's gonna definitely be a tough battle because I mean, it's just like that saying always say, it's easier to raise a child than it is to prepare a broken man. So repairing a broken man is very, very, very difficult. I don't believe that it's impossible, but I definitely think you would have to then find a way to be able to connect with this dude, and you're gonna have to kind of show him some things that will register with him that would then make him make the decision to make changes in his life because at the end of the day it's like an addict. Like you have to realize you got a problem, and then you have to want to change it or get away from it. So unless that's there, I mean, that's all we can do is help a man identify it and push him through it. I mean, that's really all you can do because we're talking about adults. I can't make the man do anything. So hopefully if he's really willing to own up and be a better man and what he needs to be, that's what we got to do.
I look at it like it's not an excuse, but it is an explanation. So you are responsible. I know y'all talked about responsibility last night, right?
Yes, sir.
You're responsible for your life. It don't matter who was in it, who wasn't. You are responsible for your life, for your triggers, for your health, for whatever your decisions, whatever it is you do, regardless of how you grew up. Now, how you grew up is an explanation for what you're doing.
Yeah.
People can understand what you're doing, but it's not an excuse for you continuing to do it.
Most definitely.
So at a certain point as a man, so we talk about fatherhood, as a man, it's up to you at a certain point to take responsibility, to say, I am going to change this in my life, because there's always going to be points. I don't care who it is. This is just my opinion. There's always going to be points where you can't sleep at night and you recognize what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
There's going to be points and times in your life where you're going to know exactly what's wrong with you. And you're either going to make a decision of fixing it or you're not. It's going to be nights when you can't fall asleep because you're thinking about what happened in your past, in your childhood, what you're doing. And either you're going to recognize that and move forward with it, or you're going to ignore it and continue to do what you're doing.
I agree with that. I think a lot of that is a fear. Like I've had a conversation with a dude who said exactly what you're saying. He realized it, like he knew that he should have been better at it by this point, and he wanted to, but it was just a fear in him. For some reason, he was afraid because he felt that it was too late because he had like, I think his oldest son was just turning 18, and he felt like it slipped past him because a lot of the things he need to been instilling and everything else, he felt like he was missing those years doing whatever it was he was doing that caused him to miss out. So he was just afraid, man. And a lot of it was it was hard for him to look in his son's eyes and just admit that I failed you. It was just a big fear.
I'll tell every man it's never too late to be better for your kids.
That's why I put humility first, man. That's why I said it first. You got to have this because it's fear holds us back more than anything. It's only two things that drive us as people: fear and hope. Like that's it. Things we hope for, and then the things that we're afraid of, which then both of those things dictate how we make our decisions and what we go about and how we live our life. Fear, hope is big, even if we're religious people. Fear, hope. Hoping to go to heaven and fear of going to hell. Our decision making is very, very simple. We just got to understand it and be willing to actually do it. Be willing to do the work.
Yeah, I got CT93 here. Said at some point in your adult life, you can't keep relying on the excuse of an absent parent for your bad decisions. That's pretty much what we're saying. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And people love making excuses.
Yeah.
And they will continue to make excuses as long as they keep getting accepted. They keep meeting people that accept their excuses. That's why they end up in toxic situations, because they always end up with this trauma bonding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the trauma bonding is kind of, to a certain degree, meeting somebody who accept your excuses and don't push you to be a better person. They don't hold you accountable to what you're saying. They're agreeing with everything you're saying. Everything you're saying just sounds toxic. And they just agreeing with all of it, right? For the sake of connection. And then you start surrounding yourself with all those people. And that's probably why, and that's what I was talking about when I was explaining what I was teaching my son, like surrounding yourself with the right people, because surrounding yourself with the wrong people will always allow you to make excuses in life and see everything from a negative, picture, and think that you can just go through life being a victim to everything. This victim mentality people have,
Mm-hmm. And then
But
when it comes to that, it's also that element of consequences, and also pointing out that, like, especially if your son is with the mother and is like maybe going back and forth with you. One of the things that I always tell my son is to pay attention to movements, because we as men, especially as black men, because that's all we are. We don't face the same consequences as the women on the other side do. So it's
I was just about to bring that up. Mom and dad have different consequences.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, sometimes you can watch women and even watch, they might have a recklessness with the way that they speak, or the way that they just address and go into situations. And it's like, yo, as a man, you doing that probably might get a much different result from people. Like, somebody might want to put their hands on you. Somebody might damn near try to kill you. It might cost you your whole career. Like, I think we understand, society, that okay, women push the idea that they carry some level of equality, but most people with good eyes can really see the optics and know that we're definitely not equal. So when teaching it, it's like, you got to be able to be a stand-up guy. You got to have a level of honor and integrity about yourself, because women can be as not integral as fuck as they want to be, and it don't really change a lot for them, because most guys ain't looking for them to be that anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, the man's job is to lead. So most women, if she's at a place in her life where she wants to change, she can quit and then follow your leadership. And then it's like almost all that stupid shit kind of now got erased. But men don't get nobody to come in their life and just jumpstart their life, and all of a sudden now they propelled in a better direction. We don't get that. That can easily happen for a woman, but not a man.
I mean, it's just the actions and the reactions, teaching sons that you can't emotionally react like how your mama do. You can't, because we don't have the same like you said, we don't have the same consequence. You can't run off emotions like how your mom and your sister and your aunt. You can't do it the same way. There's different things that come with it when you do it.
Yes.
As opposed to when women do it. So, and as a black man, and it's different, maneuvering through the world as a black man, especially since things are constantly changing. The goalpost is always moving. So it's like, there's a certain way for you to maneuver, and you have to know how to act and react in the world as a man, knowing that there's different ways that people see you. There's different ways that people react to you, and different end results that people want to have for you, just based off of how you maneuver through life as a man. So you got to be conscious of, I can't cuss this person out, even though I may want to, but there's a different way I can do it, to where as a man I can do it, react in this situation a different way that don't put me in handcuffs, or that doesn't, put my family in danger. Because I still have to be a protector. I still have to be a provider. I don't have the same consequences because I don't have the same responsibilities. So you got to move a different way. So how you react and how you think about what you're doing is like, yeah, I have to assess this a little differently, and it's not going to be easy.
And then the heartaching part, man, like as a black man, like the understanding that the world don't really care for you like that. Like you got to put so much on your back, especially like nowadays, and we so at odds even with our women. It's like, who's really there for the black man? Like, since we're talking about fatherhood and the importance of a father, like once you get to that point, being strong enough to realize like who really cares for us, man. Like it's hard because most people look at us like, yo, you'll toughen it up. He all right. He ain't, man up, man. Go ahead and get up. Like, where do we go for that fellowship? Where do we go? And that's the importance of having your father. So you can get it firsthand by a man that look like you, man you inspire to be, like having it that close to home where it's like, yo, I got somebody for that. Like, yeah, you love your mom. Of course, we love our mothers. We love our mothers. But it's a difference there, though. It's a bigger difference.
Yeah. I mean, but it kind of goes into a spiritual standpoint because you should go to God. You should get some type of spiritual grounding. The better your spiritual grounding is, the better your mentality is going to be. So it's like we look for people sometimes in situations where we should be looking for God. That's my opinion. So we still want to surround ourselves and know who we can go to, because like you said, the world don't care about us. We don't care. You can be homeless. You can be a father, but you can be homeless, but you better figure it out. Nobody care. You can be in a hospital bed. You better figure it out. Don't nobody care. Do you have life insurance? That's all they want to know. So even with that, like,
and that's just so you can keep providing for people after you're dead.
After
they still ain't caring about you. They just want to see, can you provide for people after you dead?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's almost like not being discouraged by it, but there's so many factors that can make a father be discouraged. Be like, man, I'm doing what I can. What can I do? Where can I go? Where can I get support? I can't just move back home because they call me a bum. I can't just do this because then it's you all over the place a little bit sometimes.
That's why I use the word fellowship, because I don't know if many people realize like one of the main reasons why like church has its weight for a lot of people is because it's supposed to be a place where we can go and we can connect with other people who understand the same diversities and adversities that we are facing. People that we understand we're all going through some of the same things, and we're trying to build and uplift each other and keeping each other strong. So as men, it's like to have a good circle around you of men who can help uplift you. Like you may be going through something serious with your wife or your old lady, whatever may have you, whatever term you use to call it, somebody to keep you grounded. Maybe you might have teenage kids and you might be like, yo, man, I've been wanting to choke this little nigga out. And then you be like, yo, you need somebody to be like, look, man, my son the same way and going through it. And, that midlife crisis phase, like when you get to that point and you start losing parents, because that's very difficult. That's why they call that time of crisis. So when you losing parents, you need people to be able to fall back on, because we all human. Male, female, black, white, we still all human. And it's that simple thing of, we need people to be able to keep us strong so we can continue being strong, building our communities and, making this habitat what it needs to be.
Well, I think it has to go with actually wanting the fellowship. You think about church. I mean, church is mainly full of women. Like guys have to want the fellowship. And at the same time, it's like men can be so broken that we don't really know how to be vulnerable enough to even allow a fellowship based off of past experiences, based off of our fathers not being there. So now you don't trust men, you don't trust homeboys, you don't trust your, person that stabbed you in the back. It's a lot of different things that make a man be like, yo, it's kind of tough to, find a fellowship, because every time I turn around, somebody either try to take something from me, somebody either try to, suck me dry for my resources. I'm being used here. Somebody, I don't trust this person here. So you have those, and it's crazy because we talked about Kendrick Lamar album, right? A few days ago. And he has that Father Time album on song on the album. And it kind of goes into what I'm saying here, where he kind of admits that the father issues that he had kind of messed up his relationship building ability. You know what I'm saying? Or having that fellowship, sabotaging friendships and stuff like that. So I think it's like a vicious cycle to a certain degree. Because we got places we could go, but some places that we could go, we choose not to.
Most definitely. And it's one of them things, man. It's sad, man, because especially like as black men, we choose to suffer in silence way too much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad. Like it's sad. I can't really see much more than the fact that it's sad.
We suffer in silence so much, right? I was thinking about this a while ago. Say, we didn't have Million Man marches.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have Million Man marches. And we have people who give speeches in those marches. Now, out of the million men at that march, 900,000 of them on child support, but yet there's no speech about it at all. A lot of people be about to commit suicide. No speech about it at all. There's nothing about paternity tests and DNA tests. There's 100,000 men in the audience paying for kids that's not even theirs. We suffer in silence because we don't want to be real about what we're really going through.
Even down to our health. Like, yeah. Like we don't be like, man, I ain't going to that doctor, man. I ain't doing this, man. Like, it's like we're told that we got to be strong so much that some of us, most of us, we believe it ourselves that we so strong and prideful, we can't even admit that, I'm actually sick today. Mm-hmm. Something just that simple. Like, you sick. You bet it hurts to get out of the bed. But you was like, nah, man, I'm still about to go to work and I'm planning on work hard. And it's like, dude, you gotta rest. But it's like we understand that they're not gonna allow me to rest. So we end up killing ourselves. That's why we die faster than our women.
Mm. Yeah. So even going into what we were talking about before, that question. So what do you do, or what would you do as a father if you recognize that the mother isn't in the best space to be around the kids? How do you approach that? Only reason I ask that question is because a lot of mothers may have pride too. So she might not recognize what's going on in that situation, or recognize how she's affecting the kids, because some of them, and I kind of got this from, I don't know if you know Love Dorsey, but I kind of got this from her video. This is where I got this question from, because she was alluding to the fact that a lot of mothers be in dark spaces, but won't admit it, and won't allow the father, or won't admit it to the father that they're going through it, and won't even allow him to have the kids even in that dark space, even though he probably should. So if you're the father and you recognize that, how do you approach it and, or bring it up or give a solution to it to a certain degree?
So for me, this question is actually it's not even hypothetical. What I do is literally, I have the conversation. I'm having a conversation with her, the mother, talking about, like, we're talking about what is best for the children. Even down this avenue, because there is that pride amongst women, and it's literally having the conversation like, yo, we got to do what our responsibility is for the betterment of the children. I'm not trying to make you feel away, make you feel like a bad person. I'm not trying to take on and be the custodial parent, but I will relieve you of a certain responsibility just for you to get yourself together. Because I'm a firm believer that, dog, if you suffer, the kids suffer. I cannot sit on the sideline and be like, yo, oh, she ain't got her shit together, but I'm good. Like, that's just a half side. Because you got to remember, you're still creating a complex amongst your child. They're seeing that, okay, you got it good, we suffer here. We come over the good, we suffer here. We come over good, we suffer here. You're not benefiting your children. So at the end of the day, it's like you got to have the conversation. Hopefully, it's a woman who's willing to do the work and she's not that stubborn. Because if she's super stubborn, there's really not much you can do. I mean, but keep trying to have the conversation. But I mean, because if you got like one of those situations where there's actually a deemed custody, I mean, you can't take them from them. Like, so you have to work with the person. So what I would encourage though for men is not to be so judgmental and critical of the woman. Like, this situation right here is one of them situations where you have to be empathetic and you got to show a little sympathy too.
Yeah.
You got to. Because only her understanding and being able to see you willing to help her through that vulnerable state is going to be the only thing that really going to help her push. Because if she feel like she attacked, it's going to be worse for you. It's going to be worse for the kids. The kids going to lose more ultimately than anything. So that's a very, very, very tough situation to be in. But all you can really do is make the suggestions like, yo, let me take them off your hand. How long you think it's going to take for you to get yourself together? Okay, I'll take it for about 8 months or 8 to the year. Like, go ahead and get yourself established. Like, and this is why I say, like, being empathetic, like, whatever you need. Let me know if you need something from me. Because I understand our goal, and I don't want you to suffer because there's sons and daughters that got to look at you like that. That's why I say you got to have a sympathy and an empathy to it, man. Like, tell me what you need to get yourself together if you want to get it together. Because if she don't want to get it together, then now we back at a crossroad again. Because you really can't do anything with someone if they don't want to do it themselves. And the sad part is it's only going to hurt the children more. Because you're going to be who you are. You might have the heartache of seeing your children go through it. But, I mean, you're going to be who you are. You already established as a man. So it's like you're going to deal with the heartache now. So it's like I said, man, ultimately, got to have a conversation. And you really have to be empathetic and sympathetic, man. You have to. That's all you can do.
I think this is when having a good co-parenting relationship is definitely in handy, because everybody's not going to always be in the best position in life. Everybody's not going to always be in the best situation, mentally, physically, whatever. And this is why, I always encourage a good co-parenting relationship, because then you know how to support each other as parents, not even just, only just for the child, but as parents. Somebody's, parent mom and dad might pass away. Somebody might get sick. Somebody might lose their job. Anything can happen to put somebody in a dark space. And at this point is when that communication is beneficial. So
real quick, because I'm looking at the chat, CT93, put you'll throw that up on the screen.
Yeah, CT is all over the place. Let's see what CT talking about.
Yeah, that one right there. I would like to answer to that question and vice versa. What do you do if you recognize that father isn't best to be around the children and not that petty stuff that women say? So my answer or my response to that would still be the same way as a father I would address the women, because I mean we our job is to work together. So if it's a situation where you think like like if you think that the father is not in a good mental place or he's harming, or even if you don't feel like the mother is in a good place and you feel like it's very harming to the child, you got to be empathetic and sympathetic. You're gonna have to have that conversation, because if you think it's dangerous, like if you think it's like, because if you say somebody ain't, because to me, when you tell me somebody ain't right mentally, it just seems extremely dangerous to me. Like if you ain't right mentally, that means that like anything could happen. Like I don't really know how to go around that. I'm like, yo, their life might be in jeopardy. So it's like you got to talk to the spouse, whichever is man or woman, and you got to you got to recommend they get some help. Tell them you'll go to help with them. Because sometimes when you just telling somebody you need to get help, and they go this, no. Sometimes they need that sympathetic side to where, yo, they probably don't think that, like they probably don't believe in themselves because they don't see that nobody else believes in them, and you just giving them instruction. So sometimes the sympathetic side would be like, you know what? Your first couple therapy sessions, I'm gonna go with you because I believe you can turn it around. I believe in it. And listen, a broken man is hard to repair. Sometimes you gotta give that. That's why I say you gotta have that sympathy too. It's not just the understanding. You gotta have some emotion to it because you gotta be willing to see it through. And don't look at it from the point of view of you just trying to super benefit him. Think about the kids, because I know some people be like, I don't like, people will say quick, but I don't really care if he got it together, what he got going on. But you do care because it affects your children and you can't separate it. Their father's gonna be their father. So gotta help them get help, or her get help.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like having that compassion into, or trying to not necessarily hold their hand, because you're not, I wouldn't say you're responsible for it, but you can, be a help in making sure that they have, or they're in the right space to be able to continue to parent. Because just because you're the parent don't mean that you are, you're able to. So, whether it be, finding out what her support system is, mom, grandma, whoever watching the kids, somebody else to be involved in all of that to a certain degree. Because depending on where they at in their life and what mind state they in, they may see everything. And depending on how your co-parenting is, this is why I say the co-parent, depending on how y'all co-parenting is, regardless of what you say, whatever you say, they're going to take it defensively.
Yeah.
So there's like, if you know how to have a good communication with your other parent, with the co-parent, then they will be more accepting to what you say and listening to the advice that you give, because they see you have their best interests in mind as the other parent. But even with the kids recognize a lot of stuff. We don't realize how much kids observe and recognize and take in, and mothers might not even realize how much the kids tell their fathers about what mom doing. They don't know it. Dad might not have told her that the kids said it, but they know. So it's like, you as a father, how you approach it is like what you said, with empathy, with a good sense of communication, and with a level head of like going into it with the best interest of the child. Like, what is the best interest of the child right now? Now, if you can't do any of that and it's just seemed like it's not going nowhere and it's getting dangerous, then you do what you got to do as far as, legally or whatever the case is. Because at the end of the day, if she's being stubborn or he's being stubborn, then you need to take it to another action that, that can protect the children.
CT93 asked that question about how long are you supposed to have the compassion. You can't really put a timeline on it, because that's like saying, say if you broke your leg or you took any type of an injury or anything else, and I come to you and I be like, oh, your leg broke? I'm giving you 2 months. And you be like, 2 months to what? No, 2 months and you better be healed. And it's like, what? Like, no, you better be healed in 2 months. And it's like, you can't force it. Like, it has to heal itself. The wound has to heal itself. You have to be able to grow. Like sometimes we don't understand how deep and how bad the trauma is in the individual. And it might take a lot of time because you don't know what they're dealing with. So that's why I say you can't put a time limit on it. That man or that woman could be dealing with something ever since they've been like 2 years old and ain't never been dealing with it. Never found out a way. You gotta think about that. Like imagine that. Imagine if we talking about somebody who we'll just say they're like my age. They 35.
Mm-hmm.
You dealing with somebody who's been dealing with trauma since they've been 2. And we just now starting to try to fix and address this at 35. What kind of time limit you about to put on that? Like realistically, like, listen, if he been battling 35 years, I hate to say it, shit, what if it might take 35 more years? Sadly. But one thing I wouldn't do though, I wouldn't jeopardize oneself helping someone else. Like, don't make it your responsibility to just make them better, and then now they're suffering on the other side. So when I say have a little bit of sympathy, I don't mean go full-fledged and now you be trying to become the savior. No, don't never destroy yourself trying to help somebody else. Like, I think that's literally the fine line between heroism, and then a fool. Like, so don't ever do that.
Yeah, I mean, that compassion, I believe that compassion lasts for the rest of your life. You stuck with this person now. To be honest, you stuck with them. You got to have that compassion for your entire time being a co-parent. Now, really, the key is being a co-parent to someone you don't mind having that compassion for. Now, my thing is, if it gets to a point, like I said before, if it gets to a point where things are getting destroyed and it's like destroying your life and your mentality and what you got going on, and it's completely destroying the kids, then you have to get other resources involved, because I don't feel as though you should take that burden on yourself only.
I agree.
So there's other resources to put into consideration of all that. You can't control what they do, no matter how compassionate, how empathetic you are to that person. You can't control none of what they do, but you can influence them by what you do. And it's like, if you put resources in front of them that they can't ignore, like I don't know, cops, they can't ignore that. That blue and white looks very bright at a certain point. But you put resources in front of them that they can't ignore, then it's going to influence them to have to make decisions.
Yep.
But you shouldn't take on the burden of what somebody else is doing. It's not. I always use the phrase, it's not, our bodies were not built to carry burdens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you do what you need to do to a certain point on your own. You do what you can on your own. And then from there is when you start to involve other things, other resources that are more positive or beneficial to the situation. I don't know, CT, did I answer that question, CT? Let's see what CT said. But what if their resistance is mentally draining you and both parents have a negative effect on the children? And I say, pretty much like what I was saying. You're doing what you can, so, because at the end of the day, you still got to protect the children. Somebody has to protect the children.
Somebody.
Really, the father should be protecting the children more so. He's the protector. But if he's not in that role and you're taking that role, then you can only do what you can for the abilities that you can do it. You can't aim, but so far you can really go with it.
That's like last night when we were on we were having the show, we were talking about responsibility. Like the second question second question was your responsibility to yourself, and the third one was to the community. Even if, like, your tolerance for the individual that you're dealing with or whatever may have you, whether you want to accept it or not, they still are what make the community or what is that stronghold around your child. So you got to learn how to put your feelings aside. And if you really, really, really care about the kids, we got to do whatever it takes to better the situation for the kids. So, I mean, that's all you can do, man. You got to be able to communicate. You got to be able to build them. I tell people all the time, I ain't never in my life heard someone say, damn, yo, I'm so damn glad I ain't had a daddy. I've never heard this.
Now going into, I guess, even the final question that we can have, unless we end up into something else. You asked, what is it that you wish you would have learned from your father that you didn't?
So, like I said, one of and I kind of alluded to it earlier, like the building relationships. That's one of the things that I wish that I had learned. And that's like, even with like me and my siblings, like we're scattered. We've always been good with each other, but I think like learning how to really operate, because my father was so direct and so hardcore. It took me like my latter teen years to start trying to like compassionately see it the way people view things. Like I said, my dad was like no excuses. So whenever I would hear things or see people do stuff, I just always chalk it up like, man, you stupid, man. You just making a big deal out of nothing. Like, yo, man, push forward, man. I don't understand why you let this hold you back. So it really took me a while, like, to realize, like, yo, man, sometimes, man, you just got to work with them. Just got to build a rapport with this person, man. Work with them. That's even with your siblings, even with your parents. Because sometimes some parents have, and their children have fallen out, and sometimes those situations got to be restored. So, I mean, it's just building relationships, period, man. It's one of them things I really wish that I learned earlier, or learned it more directly from my father. I had to learn it outside.
Yeah, and I was pretty much gonna say I wish I knew how to be married. Oh my God, that would have been very beneficial information at that time. It's like, because in a marriage, right? I see marriage or being a husband as like I don't want to say pinnacle. It's not the word I'm looking for. But this is the word I'm gonna use.
I think that's the most honorable position you can hold, dog.
As a man, as in manhood, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
You learn a lot as a man when you get married. You can learn a lot when you're single. Trust me, you can learn a lot when you're single. But when you become a husband, you grow up fast. So I know it was certain things that I wish I would have known or been privy to beforehand, and how to use those qualities, within a marriage at that point. And pretty much having to learn the hard way, you had to, grow from there, just learning from your own experiences. But I know from a father to a son, you will learn certain things that you should do as a husband that seeps into fatherhood. Because there's qualities that you get as a husband of being able to know how to take care of a family, being able to not be selfish, being able to, provide and protect. You learn basics from a husband that goes into a fatherhood, that goes into being a father. So,
and I think what makes that husband role so powerful is because, see, like, if we take, father, see, there's an innate side to fatherhood as well. So a lot of times it doesn't require a big push, because you understand, like, yo, that's my seed. I got to do what I got to do as far as responsibility. I think it's a different level of choice of commitment when you choose to be the husband, because you don't have to. You don't have really no ties to this woman. This is a woman that you solemnly made a choice yourself to say, I'm going to be for you. We're going to ride this thing out, whatever the vows is or however you put it together, that we're going to carry this through. We're going to do all that. And then I think taking that level of a stance, like how you said, taking a stance like that bleeds heavily into how you parent as well. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of us go lacking is because we don't have a lot of our women are single. They're single mothers. They don't even have husbands. So it's kind of hard to jump straight to being a good father when we don't even have the basis of of a husband yet.
Mm-hmm. Of just the manhood that comes with responsibility. Yes, you know. But yeah, that's all I got, man. I guess all I got. You got anything else? Anything else to say to the people? Say to the channels? Great discussion, man.
Just simple. One of my articles, we do a lot of things. I had mapped out father as an acronym. I know me and my boy Marshall, we love acronyms. So I simply place father as an acronym and it suited. I was like, the F is to facilitate hard work ethics. A is to accommodate patience and leadership. T, train emotional and physical discipline. H is to harvest humility and respect. E is to enlighten with principles and morale. And then the R is so we can then refine wise and well-versed men. Simple as that.
Simple as that. That's a great acronym, man. Might have to make some T-shirts out of those or something, like for every letter.
Most definitely.
Yeah. Only thing else I got, man. Finding the New You, the book. Get your copy today. Go get your copy. It's in there. The Power of Resetting Your Mind and Perspective is on Amazon. You go to Books A Million, it's sitting right beside the Bible. That's how important it is. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, it's a great book, man. I enjoy writing it. I enjoy everybody.
I had to get the book twice. Good. I gave the book to my homeboy to read. Never got it back, so I had to buy another.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I appreciate that. I hope you lose another one. So
yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah, shout out CT93. She was very involved in the live, man. Shout out to the fathers and the stepfathers, definitely.
One of the things I like about her comments is at least that it shows that you're at least trying to figure out the situation. You're trying to make better for the situation, and that's what is needed. You know what I'm saying? We got us working together. So I like that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, definitely, man. That's all I got, though, man. Thank everybody for watching. Kevin's perspective mixed with humble beginnings, vocal visions, and we signing out.
Yes, sir.